The other big sort of talking point through the course of the day in the second half especially will be the Reliance Industries' AGM. This is the 47th annual general meeting. This 2 p.m. is when Mr. Mukesh Ambani, chairman of RIL, will be addressing investors. Markets are awaiting sort of definitive concrete plans as far as Jio and the retail business listings are concerned. Of course, I mean, it's a conglomerate. It's many businesses in one entity, which is RIL. Probal Sen is energy analyst at ICICI Securities. Probal, good morning. Great to have you with us here. Appreciate it. I'm sure that some of your colleagues track other parts of the businesses of Reliance as well, right? So you would have put your heads together to kind of come up with what really markets are watching. So put on that hat for us, not just the oil hat. What should we watch out for from the AGM today, Probal?
The listing price maybe for Jio and retail, as well as the time of listing. That'll be great.
Are you being serious?
No. Look at the smile. We see the smile, probably. Yeah, but
I just had to confirm. I mean, there was a poker face.
No, I think on a serious note, if you look at the last couple of years in terms of what the expectations have been, to be fair, I think concrete news in terms of either timeline or milestones around the unlocking of value of both retail and Jio has been expected probably for the last couple of years. So this time it's not much difference. I think the reason why probably there is more optimism, including on our side, in terms of more concrete news is because the tariff increases that have been awaited by the markets, particularly in telecom, have actually come through to a certain extent. So therefore, the question now becomes: are these numbers and is this visibility now enough for the unlocking of value and for the strategic investors to basically look at a price and say, hey, this is a price that we can look to monetize and therefore go to the public. So to that extent, I think the probability of some more news coming through for both retail and Jio probably increases. Having said that, as I repeatedly mentioned, this has been expected for the last couple of years, probably for the last 3 years. We have been basically building in this expectation. So I don't want to speculate too much on exactly what will be announced with respect to the listing. Any news that comes through, obviously providing any clarity on what the roadmap is, will obviously be taken positively by the street. That's how I'll probably look at it.
Sure, absolutely. Probably, I guess that remains the one big announcement that we watch out for. But coming down to more specifics of the part of the business that you track, and that's energy. Now, I remember it's been, I think, over 2 to 3 years since we started getting the big roadmap on the renewable energy side as well, right? The gigafactories at Jamnagar and, everything that's happening over there, the electrolyzers, etc. Now, from that perspective, what are the further specifics that could provide a fresh impetus to the stock? And I'm purely talking about the energy business now. What would you want to hear?
No, sure. I think if you look at the annual report that was released, probably about a month ago or so, or probably not even that, it does talk in more detail in terms of work that has been done specifically on the solar front. I think, it's a reasonable expectation perhaps to look at basically milestones being probably talked about in terms of setting up of the 4 gigafactories that were spoken about for the first time a few years ago when the investments were first announced in the renewable space. So any milestones, I think, with respect to maybe specific capacity related numbers, whether it's in terms of solar or in terms of green hydrogen or blue hydrogen, whichever one is more feasible right now. I think milestones on that front is something that we would definitely be looking forward to. In addition, not just in new energy, but if you remember, there were specific petrochemical expansions as well that were announced. They have stated their long-term goal to essentially move to more and more conversion of crude oil as such into direct chemicals and specialty chemicals. So my sense is that, there could be more announcements, more, strategic direction that could be announced in terms of how that will be achieved. So those are the 2 aspects that I would probably look at in this AGM speech.
So Prabal, let me ask you this. In the SOTP right now, how much are you ascribing to upstream? How much is, overall O2C? And I don't know, is new energy getting any valuation as of now in target prices? Or what will, if not now, then what's the roadmap ahead on it?
So to answer your first question, OTC plus upstream would probably be in terms of my overall SOTP target price of close to about 2,900 rupees. around 700 rupees odd comes from OTC, 700 to 750, including upstream. Retail and Jio obviously are much bigger components, and I'm talking about EV, not equity value, because net debt becomes sort of a consolidated number to be reduced. But in terms of the overall EV of around 3,200, 3,300 rupees a share that we have, almost 2,000 rupees actually comes from Jio and telecom alone. Jio and retail alone. About 700 to 800 rupees comes from the OTC plus upstream segment. But new energy, to answer your question, as of now, we value it at about 1.5 times capital employed on the basis of the 70,000 crore that was announced as a targeted investment. As I said, as and when we receive more clarity, as and when we have more understanding of the economics of both the solar, hydrogen, and the other projects, that is my sense where, earnings can get up and down depending on the progress made. But I would believe that even the street does attribute some value. When I say 1.5 times capital employed, that translates to around 150 rupees a share of enterprise value at this point of time.
Probal, in terms of timelines, if they sort of decide to go ahead and do this, right? What is your assumption? By when are we looking at these entities coming to the market?
Honestly, I would not.
The earliest they can do. I mean, if you start now.
Well, I think if they start now, given the size and scale of both the businesses, I would be surprised if they can get it done in a very short period of time. You would probably look at, from a filing perspective, from a timeline perspective, not earlier than probably a year. But I would not want to hazard a guess, to be honest, in terms of what they would be looking to do.
Probal, just to cap it off, so I heard you clearly, you're ascribing 150 rupees of EV, and the metric is 1.5 times the capital employed. I mean, if we look at global examples of renewable businesses, new energy business, something comparable, then what kind of valuation multiples, perhaps in future, I mean, when the scale-up happens, what is the roadmap that we could be looking at as we value these businesses?
I think if memory serves, if we look at comparable businesses which have become established, specifically, frankly, only a couple of Chinese names come to mind, and, some European players, and none of them are doing all of the businesses that Reliance is looking at getting. There are some isolated solar players, which you can compare the REC solar acquisition to, and so on. But definitely, I think somewhere around 2.5 times capital employed is definitely, something that I'm sure Reliance would also be aspiring to. Otherwise, they don't get into businesses unless they can make multiples of their capital investment. I mean, that's a fair way to look at it.
Okay, all right. That gives us a good perspective. The runway ahead, perhaps, that could open up as these, green businesses come on stream for Reliance Industries. Probal, great talking to you. Thank you so much. And we hope to, touch base again once the announcements are out, and let's see what indeed comes out of the AGM today, which, a reminder, of course, the proceedings kick off 2 o'clock onwards. And of course, you'll get live coverage here along with all the analysis on CNBC TV 18.